A massive black shadow slowly creeps over a tiny house. Dust on the road begins to jump from the weight of heavy footsteps. Ripples pulse through a glass of water. A Nephilim is approaching. His stride is 4 meters. 4 meters! That is the distance a professional athlete covers in a single second. The Colossus does not see people. To him, an ordinary human is nothing more than a fragile insect beneath his soul. His heavy, wheezing breath is audible, echoing like the wind in a deep gorge. This is a world where physical mass is the law. Biology has risen above morality. The planet's control system has suffered a critical failure. How did humanity reach such a monstrous genetic hack?
History's first city was founded by a fugitive criminal. Cain killed his brother and departed for the cold lands of Nod. He pressed viscous clay into molds with hands that were still stained with blood. Cain built Enoch as a fortress to hide his fear. In the absolute silence of the desert, only the grinding of stone against stone can be heard. No temples were built here. From the outside, the city walls appear as impenetrable monoliths, but inside, it is a stifling prison for the human conscience. 500,000 people locked themselves in a cage of earth and stone. 500,000! That is the population of an entire modern regional capital. The city of Enoch became the first blueprint of a world where the Creator was officially declared redundant. There, technologies were born that would later be transformed into weapons.
The sharp clang of red-hot steel crashes into the delicate melody of the lyre. In the forges of Tubal-Cain, the heat is unbearable and the air reeks of sulfur. A slave pumps the leather bellows, fanning the coals until they glow white. Nearby, Jubal plucks the strings, plunging the warriors into a trance. A slender string vibrates, only to be silenced by the deafening strike of a hammer. Within a single family, both entertainment and the industry of death were born. Music now serves as the backdrop for the sharpening of blades. The reflections of dancing flames flicker upon polished steel. The pleasure industry became the perfect cover for the war machine. Weapons became the primary commodity of this new civilization. There is no turning back to peaceful labor. Weapons demanded a new ideology, and it arrived.
Elegant verse glorifies a senseless and cruel murder. Lamech summons his wives to recite the first manifesto of terror in history. He killed a young man for an accidental scratch on his shoulder. Death for a slight blow. A life for a scratch. Society applauds the poet who turned violence into high art. In the tyrant's hands, a dagger of black iron glimmers. Lamech vows to avenge himself 77 times more ruthlessly than God himself. 77 times. A number large enough to slaughter the population of 10 villages. His voice is cold and rhythmic. After the final line, a dead silence follows. But power in that world was not built on fear alone.
Are you afraid of a single dictator ruling for 30 years? Now imagine 800 years of absolute power. In the antediluvian world, the natural filter of death was practically deactivated. A ruling king would witness the passing of 10 generations of his subjects. 10 generations! It would be as if Napoleon were still ruling France today. The dry, parchment-like skin of a 900-year-old patriarch's hands grips the scepter in a deathly clench. His experience in warfare accumulated over centuries. In such a system, evil builds up like radiation in a nuclear reactor. Death ceased to be an instrument of purging and reform. The system became locked in the eternal preservation of tyranny. Stagnation was only half the problem. Then came a breach from another dimension.
The invasion was not accidental. It was a planned genetic sabotage. The fallen angels left their dimension and entered the biological world of humans. Their unearthly, terrifying beauty became a trap for the daughters of men. In the sky above the cities, a strange electrical hum filled the night. It had nothing to do with the sound of leaves or wind. The Bene Elohim hacked into the sovereignty of the human genome. They mixed celestial nature with earthly flesh, creating a new race. God responded to this act of aggression with eternal chains in darkness. But the genetic virus had already begun its destructive movement. Humanity's code was irreversibly damaged from within. Only one pure specimen could resist this breach.
A single white line of digital code amidst millions of system errors. The entire world around had turned into biological noise and genetic debris. Only one family preserved the original human architecture. Noah was not merely a virtuous elder. He was the last carrier of untainted DNA. Scripture calls him blameless. In Hebrew, this is Tamim. Noah's solitary figure stands motionless against the backdrop of a mad, screaming metropolis. He sees what others fail to notice: the total loss of the human form. The plan to save this single spark of life has already been set in motion. It would require colossal engineering efforts. The plan was massive and seemed utterly insane to his contemporaries.
75 years. That is how long it took to construct the most massive project in the history of ancient engineering. Noah is building not just a ship, but a massive vault to reboot civilization. The vessel is 140 meters long, the equivalent of 3 Olympic-sized swimming pools lined up in a single row. A stifling smell of boiling bitumen hangs in the air over the construction site. Sticky black pitch slowly oozes down the pale planks of gopher wood. This ark has no rudder and no sails. The vessel must surrender itself completely to the power of the current. 300 cubits of wood prepare to endure an impact of planetary scale. In the forges of the Canaanites, only mocking laughter is heard. But behind that laughter lay a total psychological blindness. The rhythmic beat of Noah's hammer is drowned out by the wild laughter of the crowd behind the fence. The old man has been preaching about the world's demise for 27,000 days in a row. 27,000. That is more than 2 million hours of preaching without a single listener. Dust kicks up into the engineer's face from the gilded chariots of passing Nephilim. Not a single neighbor set aside their affairs to help, or even simply to listen. The total blindness of comfort has turned people into the living dead. They are certain the sun will rise forever. Noah drops his tool and steps inside the massive hole. The time for negotiations is officially over. Control over the situation has passed to the system itself.
Have you ever heard the sound of a door that can never be opened again? The loud music and shouting in the markets outside suddenly cut off. Inside the ark, an icy, echoing silence reigns. A resonating impact ripples through the entire wooden hull. It is the Lord closing the door behind Noah's family from the outside. Not a single person on earth has power over this latch anymore. For 7 days, the people inside wait in total darkness to the rustle of hay. Only a few centimeters of wood stand between life and total destruction. No tyrant can breach a door that the Creator has closed. Immediately after that sound, the planet itself began to speak.
The solid ground beneath one's feet turns to liquid mire in a matter of seconds. This is no mere downpour. It is the detonation of all the planet's spheres. Water erupts from rifts in the Earth's crust with crushing force. Oceans previously hidden within the windows of the heavens collapse from above. Where now is the profound knowledge of 800-year-old kings against the fury of the water? Blinding flashes of lightning illuminate the gray wall of the falling ocean. Creation disintegrates and returns to primordial chaos. The water rises 7 meters above the highest peaks. The entire technological world turns into a boundless cemetery. In this ocean, only a single point remained where life still flickered. 8 people in total darkness now represent the entire living population of the planet. Outside, the primordial elements roar. Inside the hold, only the faint, intermittent whisper of prayer can be heard. 8 people. That is fewer than the players on a single football team. The air smells of must, animal fur, and old wood. For 150 days, water was the sole master of the globe. 150 days. That is 5 long months of waiting in absolute uncertainty. The life of all humanity hung on a single short word. Remembered. God finally remembered Noah. When the waters receded, the world saw a new symbol of power. The first bright ray of light pierces the dense gray fog over the slopes of Ararat. A magnificent sign ignites in the sky, spanning the entire horizon. A rainbow. 7 pure colors replace 1,000 words of warning. In ancient Hebrew, this word means a warrior's battle bow. God sets down his weapon and points the bowstring toward himself. The air carries the sharp scent of ozone and clean, cool earth. This is a non-aggression pact signed in color upon the clouds. God hangs his bow in the heavenly gallery as a token of peace. An armistice is officially declared for thousands of years to come. But this truce does not mean that the causes of the flood have vanished forever. The year of the death of the oldest man in history became the first day of the end of the world. Methuselah lived 969 years. 969. That is longer than the entire duration of the Roman Empire. His name was a hidden code. When he dies, it shall come. God gave humanity a head start of almost 1,000 years to change its course. In the silence of the room, the old man's final, barely audible exhale is heard. The timer reset to 0 in that very same hour. The first drops of rain fell on the dry ground immediately after his funeral. God's patience is as vast as an ocean, but it has a final minute. This minute may come again, and the signs are already here. Images of new wars and genetic experiments flicker on the bright screen of a smartphone. We have once again entered a cycle that the Bible calls the days of Noah. We build skyscrapers, write music, and ignore the blows of the hammer in the silence. Are you Noah on the scaffolding, or an ordinary man in line for a new gadget? The light in your room goes out, leaving you one-on-one with reality. The ticking of the clock on the wall becomes frighteningly loud and distinct. The door of salvation is still open for entry, but it will not be a man who closes it. Silence. Period.